Everyone had a family day. We are at the WC O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers, which is open to the public, but as well, we will be streamed through Zoom and Facebook. If anyone has any questions related to anything pertaining to tonight's agenda, you can email us at pnopper@townofstanders.ca, and Mr. Nopper will be sure to put the spelling of that in the comment section. There is several members of council not in attendance tonight, but we do have quorum. We've got Councillor Blanchard joining us virtually, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Neal, Councillor Harlan, and Councillor Ware, as well as myself in attendance. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Peskotomuhkati people. All right, before the approval of the agenda, I do have an award that I'd like to present. We have our Community Appreciation Awards that we do annually. However, one of the recipients was away pursuing studies, and they happen to be home for, I believe, what they call study break, so I hope that's the case. But nonetheless, I wanted to recognize Jacob Hall. So it's a new award, first time we've actually ever done it. It's a youth award. And I can actually say I nominated this individual. He jumped out in my mind as well with Gregor, but during the forest fire, I know Jacob was there working, and it was certainly a time where he could almost say that our community was on its knees, and it was about rallying together and supporting each other and doing what you can to make this the amazing place that we all live. And Jacob was there for very extensive hours, and his commitment to the fire department over the last couple of years has truly been appreciated. I'm not going to say that we've got some older members, Councillor Neal, but the youth is certainly probably appreciated around the fire hall. But as well, I remember when I had a student job, my responsibilities, I think probably when I was Jacob's age, I was at the Welcome Center, and my responsibility was giving people directions. Jacob's summer job was actually taking kids out in the ocean and teaching them how to sail. So if you're someone that's just getting done high school and you're already trusted to take out 6 youth out into the ocean, it probably speaks to the leadership and the responsibility and the type of young person that you are. So at this point, I wanted to present Jacob Hulse with the Sanders Appreciation Award for his youth leadership. So I'll come right up to you and shake your hand. Okay. Thank you for your Oh, no, it's well received. Well ordered. Thank you very much. Right, there you go. Stick around for 3 hours and see some magic if you want, yeah? It'll make you want to pursue your studies. All right. All right, so let's get to the approval of the agenda. I'll look for a mover to approve the agenda as circulated. I've got Councillor Harlan, seconded by Councillor Neal. Any discussion or changes on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. And I can see Councillor Blanchard's hand on the screen, so that is everybody. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Okay, myself, as most meetings, will be declaring 2 tonight. One related to Indulge, as Kingsbury does handle the financials. It is for the food bank, but it is very close to the organization I work for. And the other is regarding, to be consistent, for Evans Land Development Limited. And I have talked to Councillor Neal, who will chair the meeting at that particular time. All right, if there's no one else, the good news is no presentations this evening, so that'll save a little bit of time for everyone that's in attendance. And we do not do, obviously, the minutes for this meeting. We do it on the other regular meetings. So we are in communications, and I will jump ahead to page 5 for those following along the council package. And I'll just abbreviate it, but it is request. Let me just jump back. It's a request from the Fibromyalgia Association of Canada. It's their Illumination campaign. It's a request for council to illuminate Town Hall in purple on May 12th, 2024 to support fibromyalgia. I just a little paragraph I'll grab from the letter they sent. This letter was from Trudy Flynn, who is the chair of their association. It says on May 12th, 2024 is the 32nd anniversary of Fibromyalgia Awareness Day as recognized by the World Health Organization. I'm contacting you to ask if you would light your building landmark in purple in recognition of the 2 to 4% of Canadians living with fibromyalgia. That is almost 2 million Canadians who have been diagnosed. There are still many Canadians waiting to be diagnosed or who are not counted in these numbers because they have another primary condition such as cancer, cardiac issues, etc. So certainly 2 to 4% of Canadians is certainly a significant amount. So I'll be just looking for consensus for council. Is everybody okay lighting up town hall for that day, for that cause? I got all head nods, so that one has gone forward. Next one is a plant-based treaty request from www.plantbasedtreaty.org. They're requesting council support for the plant-based treaty, which aims to promote a shift awareness, healthier, sustainable plant-based diets to help fight climate change. So this would be a request on signing essentially a treaty. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I'd like to table this motion, if I would, please.
Okay, got a mover to table. Anyone else like to second that tabling? Councillor Neal, any discussion on the tabling? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of tabling this motion, please signify by saying aye. Okay, and I've got anyone opposed to tabling? Okay, I got four to one. It's been tabled. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. We are now into the introduction and consideration and passing of bylaws. Deputy Mayor Akaji is not here. Who would like to play the role this evening of Deputy Mayor? Deputy Mayor, actually, I've got Councillor Bennett. Thank you, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Tonight, reference number FA 240214, submitted by Deputy Mayor Akaji, spoken by myself. The subject, Human Resource Organizational Chart Update. The background reads, with the recent approval of the new positions for the town of St. Andrews, an update to the organizational chart was needed. Please see the attached documents for review of the chart. Once approved, this will be added to the Human Resource Policy document for the town. For reference, the town has changed the following positions: receptionist, an administrative assistant, and recreation leader. Note that the report was tabled on at the 240-205 regular council meeting, as a bylaw enforcement officer fire operator was missing from the document. The position has been added to the organizational chart. And the motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the updated organizational chart and document to be added to the human resource policy, moved by myself.
Thank you. Seconder for that one. Got Councillor Harland. Discussion on that motion? Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody that has been carried. Next motion.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Reference number FA 240215, submitted by Deputy Mayor Akaji. Subject, Community Assistance Grant Request for 2024. The background reads, provided with this report are submissions to the Community Assistance Grant Fund from the town of St. Andrews for 2024. The town received 16 grants for support totaling $25,100. Council has already supported 3 organizations for large-scale funding requests at a total of $24,000 to Sunbury Shores, Katy Cove Inc., and the Charlotte County Archives. Council has budgeted $15,000 for the 2024 Community Assistance Grant Fund. Note that while council considers the funding request, there may be other requests submitted throughout the year for funding. Council may spend entirety of the community assistance funds available, but could leave other requests in the future with limited options for council. Some funds can be drawn from our list of endowment funds and have been bequeathed to the town. Due to the volume of applications it may be more efficient to have an ad hoc committee review these and come back in March with recommendations. Motion that the Council of Town of St. Andrews provides the following community assistance grants for 2024 to the following organizations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. So I think probably the second one kind of contradicts the first, so it's and or type thing. So council, just before we look for a seconder, I think what staff's wondering is we could go through them very quickly, or we could have an ad hoc committee of council kind of review them and then come back with a recommendation. Right now, as indicated from the background, the requested amount exceeds the budget for this particular item, so it hasn't really been screened through. So council, over to you. If you would like an ad hoc committee to have a kind of a look through it, then we could table the first one, and then in the second one, we'll appoint the committee. Over to you for your pleasure on that one. Okay, so do you want to get a seconder out there first, or can we just move to table right now after it doesn't matter? So, all right, so can we have a seconder for the tabling? I've got Councillor Harlan. Any discussion on the tabling? Okay, all in favor of tabling the first motion, please signify by saying aye. That's tabled. So now we're into the or, so I'll pass it back to Councillor Bennett, which is the next motion.
So the next motion would be that an ad hoc committee of council be created to review the assistant grants and return to council with a recommendation. The members of the committee would be.
All right, so we'll kind of add that in here. Maybe I'll just get a quick consensus. He can add it in. We'll do the seconder. Is that a friendly amendment? Okay, good. Does anyone wish to be on this committee? I think the idea would be to have staff and maybe, I don't mind, but maybe two other counselors and myself. I've got two hands. Anyone else? So I can step aside. I trust you all. So, all right. So I've got two hands. I've got Councillor Bennett, Councillor Harlan would like to be part of this process. So if you just want to add the members of the committee would be, you can move after I say it, would be Councillor Bennett, Councillor Harlan, Mayor Henderson, and town staff, senior staff. That would work, and probably the idea would be Chris and Paul sit in on that meeting as well, and then we bring it back. Okay, do you want to move on that, Councillor Bennett, then? Okay, he moves. A seconder on that, Councillor Neal. Discussion on that committee. Okay, all in favor of approving that committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect, and we'll line up a time. I think we could probably bring that forward. Okay, pretty quick.
Oh, worship, just a quick question. Just a question. I just fine with what's been passed. Just a question on the community assistance fund. When was that established at 15,000? How long ago was that established? Just a question.
That would have been established with the budget process.
I know, but it's been 15,000 for a number of years. I'm just wondering how far back does that go when it was established 15,000, or did it change significantly? I don't think it changed significantly this year from last budget.
Yeah, I think it was actually slightly reduced because during the regular budget process, we awarded some of the people that normally access those funds. So last year it was 17,500. Yeah,
yeah,
slightly reduced. But with that being said, we already gave away 24,000. Was it? Yeah, 24,000 says in the background.
Okay. So. Yeah. Thanks.
And every year we come do a pretty good job of spending that. And
yeah, I'm just wondering. Yeah, I'm just wondering if next budget cycle we want to maybe in addition to what we've already sort of set aside there, maybe we want to bump it up a little bit, just given the cost of living and inflation, everything that's occurred. It's certainly more expensive for a lot of these organizations to do business and to continue to do what they're doing. They're probably going to need maybe a little more assistance from us. So it's something to consider in the future.
Sounds good. We'll put that in the parking lot for next budget cycle. So thank you very much for that. We did approve that, right? Okay, we're good to go on that one. So we're jumping way ahead because in your package, most of that was actually the request. There's quite a few, as you can see, which brings us actually to public works and public safety. And I'm not sure if it's Councillor Bennett or Councillor Neal for that motion. It says Bennett. We're on 147.
Once again, thank you. Reference number PWPS 240201, submitted by myself. Subject, Amendment A-5 to Bylaw 19-07, Water and Wastewater Bylaw. The background. The town has been working on replacing water meters for residents who are on water utility. The purpose of the water meter charge is to move from a flat rate system to consumption-based water system. With the change to consumption-based system, the schedule of fees for bylaw 19-07, a bylaw relating to water systems, water rates, wastewater systems, and wastewater rates need to be changed. Provided with this report is a copy of the current water and wastewater rates, the proposed changes to the rates, and staff report from Chris Spears, CAO Treasurer. As this is a schedule change to a bylaw, it only requires one reading for council. The motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the water and wastewater rates charges as outlined in Amendment A-5 to bylaw number 19-0, a bylaw 19 excuse me. Amendment to A-5 to bylaw number 19-07, a bylaw relating to water systems, water rates, wastewater systems, and wastewater rates. Moved by myself.
Thank you. Seconder for that one to get it out on the table. Councillor Harlan. Okay, we're open for discussion. Mr. Spear, in the actual motion, do you want to give just a quick summary for those that are at home of what this actually, what the impacts are?
Thank you, Worship. So as council knows, and most of the utility customers since I think 2018, we've been billing on a flat base system, for several years after having gone on a metered consumption, which environmentally is more friendly. And I guess for those, when you compare a larger family versus someone living alone, it's probably more fair to have it on a metered basis. So we're getting there right now that the larger consumers have always been on a metered basis. So what we say is most residential homes are on a 5/8 meter, and a few of the smaller businesses who wouldn't use larger volumes of water. But for the extremely large customers, and we'll take like a hotel, for example, or have been a consumption-based funding all along. So one of our struggles was that a lot of our meters were outdated, and we had to do a wide changeover of them. And we're just about there, but out of 900, about a third of them had to be changed, but there's still about 150 left to be changed, Your Worship. So there's a good chance that there'll still be a part of the customer base that's still going to be a flat meter, and then some, as their new meters have been installed, that will convert them over, at least this reading, into consumption based, and then by the fall billing, everybody be on consumption based. This is the plan.
Perfect. So just for clarity, this particular motion would have a hybrid option between flat rate billing or would it be just the flat rate billing?
Well, for those that have new meters or meters that are functioning properly, it'll be they'll be on consumption based. But for anyone that's still in the queue to have their meter and reader changed, they'll still be in a flat meter till we can get to them. And just to take it one step further, just to explain it, that it takes two people about 8 hours to change 6 to 7 meters. So it's a long process on top of everything else. And as council knows, we've been short-staffed pretty much for the year and a half. So we've had to divert people all around to try to do it, but we're getting there. But there's no way to have gotten all the meters turned over by this billing period, which ends at the end of March.
Okay, council, I'll be looking for some direction. I just wanted to provide some commentary. So I guess one more question is, in 6 months' time, do you think we'll be in a lot better situation with those 150 to 200 homes that are still not up to their
100%? That's Public Works has been cooperating with the water department to just move through and move them as fast as they can. We've been assigning people with the good weather we've had with the lack of snow. It's able them to go out and do this, but it's still a time-consuming process.
So, council, I guess the reason I asked that question is I'm personally a big believer in getting on pay for what you use. It's fair. I'm a family of 5 in my household. We use a significant amount of water. There's senior citizens in this town that live alone that are paying the same amount that I do. That's not right. That's not fair. My concern, though, is the fact that we've got a large portion of residents still on flat rate billing. So now the challenge is, if I'll use the senior example. I'm a senior living alone, and say Councillor Neil's a senior living alone. If my meter's been updated, I'm paying significantly less than Councillor Neil is because he's still on flat rate billing. So I just don't think that that's really equitable when not everybody's on the same system. And what I'm hearing is in 6 months' time, most of those meters will be up to date. So neighbor versus neighbor, if you call to compare bill, it'll be more consistent than someone that's on flat rate billing and I'm pay as what I use. I just don't, that doesn't jive right now for me either. So as much as I want to get to the new system, I like it to be rolled out all at the same time, fair for everybody, if at all possible. So does everyone, I don't know if I explained that very well, but that's my concern on that. Council, over to you. Because we still have the option of doing flat rate billing for another 6 months. And then at that time, reassessing. And one thing I talked to staff about is I'd really like them with the meters that are working to just, with the rates that are before us, tell us what a family of 5 is and what a senior citizen's going to pay or a family of 4, just so we know what that rate really means to the actual user. They can use specific examples over the next 6 months so we could actually see the impact of what those rates mean. Because right now, if you just pick a number, what is it, $5.22? What is it exactly? It's $5.22 per 1,000, was it? Something like that. Anyway, that doesn't mean a lot to me, right? Like, but actually finding out what a 6-month bill period would means a lot more. Is it significantly more? Is it the same? Is it close? I don't know. Council, over to you.
Could I ask how many homes do we provide water for? Thank you.
Well, we have 900 meters for the 5/8, another 65 of the large commercial users. Taking businesses out of that, you're probably talking 825 to 850 that are personal residential meters.
Councilor Ware.
Really doesn't affect me, but when you had the study done, I noticed a very good friend of mine was one of the consultants. Did you ask them there any idea of how it should be phased in, whether it should all be at once or not?
So at the time, they had recommended a 3-year approach to phase them in, but that would have maxed out in 2020 because we did that in 2017. And these rates are still kind of at that level, what they would have been. And the council of the day, because there was a lot of infrastructure work that had to be done, decided to go right to the top rate immediately, but they would have phased it in. And at the same time, regardless of how you decide to build a meter, staff are going to do kind of a 10-year outlook of what infrastructure should be done and do a deep dive so you understand, you know, how much debt it would be good to take up. Well, let me rephrase that. How much infrastructure we need to do, should do, and how much debt would need to be taken off to pay for it all. And consequently, the user fees would have to go up if that's council's direction, you know, to keep our pace going on our pipes in the ground, as we're getting, a lot of them are 70+ years old. And so we could tie the two together. That isn't that big of an exercise. And I guess the other thing, Councillor Ware, to point out is the meters themselves, even back in 2017, were quite old. And so my recommendation would be, at some point, once we get everyone on full meters, is have a couple of years of data, then go back to them or a similar consultant to revisit the billings and see what's there. And, you know, it's a well-established process that they used. So it'd be good to bring it back again once we kind of get the system updated and get a better analysis of what's going on.
Okay. Council, anyone else? Oh, Councilor Blatchard, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I just want to, I'm supportive of what you're proposing. I'd rather see it go, if we're going in, I'd rather see it all go at the same time in terms of not so much, I mean, it is rates, but I think the previous study and what Councillor Weir was asking and what Mr. Spear sort of referred to, that had more to do with the rates themselves being phased in. Was it not, or was that actually still, some would be on metered, some would be on sort of usage? Just for clarity's sake, because we're talking about, in this situation, we're talking about something a little bit different. We're not talking about different rates across the board. We're talking about different models, I guess, right? And phasing in a different model. And to me, that's a little bit different. So
you're correct, Councillor Blanchard. He was talking about the rate being phased in with increases over 3 years, not that half the community gets phased in over time, for example.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
did
So
pick
to
that
me,
up
yeah,
right.
yeah. To me, in my mind, what you had sort of proposed, having everyone switch over to a usage model versus, like you said, a neighbor being on usage, the other neighbor right next door because they haven't had their meter switched over yet, or implemented, been provided the meter yet, still on the flat rate. I think it makes more sense just to go wait until we're all ready to go, and then everyone's basically on the same model, let's say.
All right. So what I'm hearing, I guess I'll see to get consensus on that as we try to get through this. How many think we should um, do it all at the same time, or how many thinks we should just go ahead kind of with what we have now and do the next, I guess, the transition in 6 months for 200 users, roughly 150 to 200? How many think we should hold it for 6 months till we're in better position and implement it all at the same time? Absolutely.
So, I guess I just want to clarify, it could take less than 6 months, correct?
That's the hope, because we have to do base readings anyway. And so you'll buy us probably just a month through all of this, because I'm going to tell them to work their tails off, because it'll get really complicated if we have people that get put on the meters halfway through the cycle and have already used 6 months or half the billing period of water. So I want
Right.
to try to have a clean cutoff, just as close to the actual start of the billing date as we can.
Okay,
Kind of at the mercy of the billing dates.
right.
Okay, so is there any consensus on which way you'd like to go? How many would like to hold it off until we have the other 150 to 200 done? Just picture I see blank. Okay, that's majority. That's everybody. So I think there's two options. We could table this, or Mr. Spear. The other thing is, it says in your report that we could go ahead with just doing the I guess flat rate billing, but there's a proposal that a 2% increase. We basically, that's been locked for 2 years at that rate without an increase. And with inflation right now and the cost of doing any work, I think 2% is well below what inflation has been myself. I think 5% would probably be more warranted, but the voters probably saying be quiet, Brad. But I really, 2 years ago, the money was worth 10% less, right? Like our money now is worth 10% less than it was 2 years ago when it comes to projects. So, council, what's your thoughts on staff said 2%, but I do think that is below what inflation's been the last 2 years. Councilor Ware?
Yeah, I happened to be in a senior's home in St. George the other day, lives alone in a house. I was shocked when I saw the water bill. I don't get a water bill. I get a, $3,000 or $4,000 one about every 15 years. So,
Don't rub it in. Okay. Council, what's your desire? Is it anyone 2% staff's recommendation? I guess a quick show of I thought, to be honest, with inflation what it is and knowing what the amount of money we need to put in that utility fund right now is not sustainable, that the path that it's on. Myself, 5% was probably needed to keep going, and anyone that's like not a 5% increase in 2 years, that's still below inflation. So, council, big show of hands, how many thinks it should be 2%? And I'll ask 5%. 2%, anyone hands up if you think? Got one. How many think it should be 5%? Majority thinks 5%. So I got a mover and a seconder on the original. So what I would need in order to support that consensus would be
Your worship, maybe it'd be just better if you tabled it till next week.
Properly, right?
Then we can
Let's
put the schedule.
I like that. It's
reflective.
cleaner.
Yeah.
Council, does that sound good to you? Do we have anyone that would like to table this one? Councilor Harlan, seconded by Councilor Blanchard. All in favor of tabling? Any opposed? That has been tabled. Thank you, council, for working through that. All right. We are now going to go over to Councilor Ware for Economic Development, Business, and Culture. This is there's several motions here, but this is my conflict of interest. So over to you, Councilor Neal. Give me just a moment.
Your worship, or I just maybe ask council, since you're getting up already, did you want to also have council jump over to the Evans Land one to save you from making 2 trips?
That'd be lovely if you could do that for me. I wouldn't want to do extra steps. So, no, I can just hang it over there. I won't set the alarm off today.
think we are clear. Over to you, Councillor Weir.
Point of order there. Maybe Councillor Weir could turn on his microphone.
Yes, I did.
Sorry.
It's your fault
I'm
for
not
not being
sitting
here.
next to you. I would have reached over.
Reference number EBC 240201, Indulge request Wednesday, October 16th to Monday, October 21st, 2024. Town of St. Andrews received correspondence from Tressa Bevington, Indulge coordinator, regarding requests for support for Indulge 2024. This correspondence was discussed at the 240205 regular council meeting. Council directed staff to provide motions to council based on the request in the letter. See the attached document for a copy of the Indulge 2024 requests. Was that discussed at the 240205? Okay, I'm thinking 24. Due to the wharf construction, Market Square may not be available for October 2024. Thus, there is a request to use King Street. Staff have spoken to businesses along King Street regarding the event and potential placement of the tent. In addition, council was concerned about the loss of 2 accessible parking spaces alongside Cockburn's Pharmacy. Staff can install temporary accessible parking on Water Street to support pharmacy. Therefore, the first motion is that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the use of Market Square or King Street for the placement of the Indulge tent for 2024. So moved.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bennett. Okay, so before we open it up for discussion, I don't know if staff had any comments on that, whether they wanted to throw a recommendation there, or I guess the obvious question for me anyway would be right off, like, will the tent fit there with the large cement anchor blocks? And
yeah, so that was my first question too, and I said, "You sure that'll fit there?" And they said it's a bigger space than they actually use in Market Square, so in a sense, it'll probably provide more space for walking around and stuff. And it'll be placed up beyond the sidewalks in front of the Scotiabank, you know, so the sidewalk on the corner of King Streets will all, or the sidewalk, the crosswalks will all be left open. Just if things will be set upside kind of in between the parking lot of the town hall and the corner there.
okay, so over to you, council. Any other questions, comments? Being none, we'll call the question. We have a mover and a seconder, correct?
Yeah.
So all those in favor of this motion? That is everyone. Okay, the second motion, Councillor Weir.
Second motion is that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the closure of Water Street from Edward Street to Frederick Street on Friday, October 18th, 2024, from 1:00 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Indulge 2024 event. So moved.
Seconder, Councillor Harlan. Any discussion on this motion?
The only thing I'll mention, Councillor Neal, is that it is a little earlier than last year. I think we did it to 3 o'clock last year, but then we're trying to look for people to get their cars out of the way for the event. So there may be some businesses who will be irritated that it's so early in the day, but for the crowd that'll bring 2 or 3 hours later, it's staff recommendation to continue.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That is everyone, so that motion is passed as well. All right, Councillor Weir, number 3.
That the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the closure of King Street from Water Street to Queen Street from Wednesday, October 16th, 2024 to Monday, October 21st, 2024, the Indulge 2024 event if Market Square is unavailable due to wharf construction. So moved.
Seconder for that motion? Councillor Bennett? Any discussion? Bennett?
Staff, does the fire department have any issues with that closure? Thank you.
No, we talked to the fire chief. It's, they can get, of course, come down Church Lane or Queen Street to get at those areas. If there's something, an event at one of the buildings right there, then it'll be a bit of a challenge. But as some of the firefighters say, they'll find a way to get to the building if they need to, so they can make way. We will talk to make sure they're as plugged close over to one of the sidewalks as possible, so that there'll be an opportunity to bring equipment up for those 2 or 3 businesses that are right there, if need be.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, I assume the extension of that time period is basically so they can set up, tear down.
Yeah, they come in on Thursday afternoon, I think. Yeah, to drop off, set up, and then they'll start tearing down as soon as the event's over on Sunday night and pick up on Monday morning.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no other comments, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That is everyone. Motion passed. Over to you, Councillor Weir.
The Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves Public Works to install patio lighting along Water Street for the Indulge 2024 event. So moved.
Seconder for this motion, Councillor Blanchard. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question there. All those in favor? That is unanimous again. So that motion is passed. And your last one, Councillor Weir.
That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves Indulge 2024 to have a maximum of 5 food trucks allowed to operate on Friday, October 18th, 2024, and Saturday, October 19th, 2024. So moved.
We have a seconder for that, Councillor Harland. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, Councillor Harland.
I spoke to this the last time we discussed this. I'm just very excited at the fact that we're extending Tressa's providing an opportunity for us to extend this event with the added food trucks. I think that'll be a benefit for the town and look forward to seeing it happen.
Thank you. Councillor Weir.
Do we have a time on that? Is it from 12:01 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. the following day?
So through you, Councilor, we're normally speaking, the food trucks on the Friday event wouldn't start until all of the Indulge event starts. So it's usually around 5:36. And it would go till about 10 o'clock at night. So that would be the cutoff for the Friday. And then the Saturday, they were hoping for an all-day event. So like a 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., 6 p.m. But we would, under the current peddler's permit bylaw, we would issue out certificates for the time and length of operation. So we would make sure that they're off the streets and on their way. But they were asking for the full day on Saturday to make it viable for them to come down and provide service to the community.
Any other comments? Questions? If not, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous as well. So that motion is passed. Thank you, Councillor Weir. So at this moment, you want to move down towards the end there, Mr. Spear?
If council doesn't mind, I know it's jumping around, but it might be more efficient than bringing the mayor back and forth.
Council, you'll be looking for page 194 of your package.
Give everybody a minute to get there.
Thank you, Mr. Norbert.
So this is the discussion on the request for funding to support Evans Land Development. Over to staff. Mr. Spear, are you leading this one? Or Mr. Knopper?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So back in December, council did receive, or the town received a letter from Mr. Rick Turner and Evans Land Development in regards to requesting municipal funding for the expansion of water, sewer, and road infrastructure. They were seeking $120,000 in support funding. There was more information in the letter attached here. Essentially, they are looking to provide more affordable rental rates for their buildings. It's estimated that if $20,000 is provided for the first 6 buildings, which would be the $120,000 mainly along the infrastructure that would be developed, this could reduce rents for a couple of years by $83 per month. In discussions with the developer, they were asking for 50% of the, or they were asking for the $20,000 in the original letter for building 1 to be 60 days after the signing of the development and subdivision agreement. But in talking with the developers, if council is interested in supporting it, the funds wouldn't be provided until at least 50% of the building is completed to show commitment within the processes. Council did make different motions previously to other developments as noted in the report. So Van Horn Garden Homes, the project was provided $89,148 to extend water main services along Bar Road. The estimated time payback for that was 1.98 years. Now, there was benefit to the town extending the services there because it would help us create a secondary loop and access for water into the subdivision, as well as in preparation, hopefully, knock on wood, for the Peskotomuhkati Lodge. So there was benefit to that. Council did at the time as well pass funding of $122,670 to Victoria Terrace for similar water main sewer extension. The payback there from property tax was 3.41 years. And as well as the $500,000 that was provided to Compass Housing for affordable development. So that payback was estimated over approximately 10 years in that time frame. Now, I know that we did a calculation back, and I believe it was just under 3 years, or just under 2 years for payback with this development per building. So it was estimated basically 2 years per building to pay back the $20,000 in property tax. That would be a look of investment on this. In order for this to be, council would need to debate and discuss this, but if council is willing to move forward with the funding model, then we would come back with an economic development agreement similar to what Compass Housing had, as well as it would come with a subdivision agreement and development agreement when it comes ready for 3rd reading. So at this point, council, we're seeking your direction if you wish to support the Evans Land Development with the request for expansion of water, sewer, and road infrastructure.
Over to you, Councilor Weir.
It seems like a relatively small amount for an entire apartment building. And if it does accomplish getting quality infrastructure in the ground, then I think it's a fairly insignificant investment. And I assume our engineers will make sure it's quality infrastructure, and this is just a little added incentive to do so, but that's my feeling toward it.
Thank you. Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Staff, could you give us an idea on roughly what the cost to put the infrastructure in the ground would look like?
Not really, because the final design hasn't come back yet. What I can tell you is that for us, we're seeing up to about $500,000 per block to add infrastructure these days for storm water mains and sanitary sewer mains. They're going to have, not quite the same volume, but I'm going to guess somewhere between $200,000 and $350,000 for all 10 buildings. And it's a fairly long driveway for once that's put in as well. And they're eventually going to want the town to take that over once it's built up. And so it's going to have to be built to our standards. So it's going to be the equivalent of a public street as opposed to just a smaller driveway. Sorry, Councillor Bennett. Yeah, and like I said, though, they only have stuff at a high level at this point, concept drawings as we work through these things. And so they won't know until they get their final engineered drawings, which are built into the development plan, have to be approved before they can proceed with the building permit. But that's why, you know, we can only guess at this point till we kind of see what they're thinking of their whole development.
Thank you. So the way I see it right now, like we're looking at potentially a $300,000 expense for putting the infrastructure in the ground for them to build on. Then on top of that, they want a guarantee of $120,000 financial support to actually build the buildings. This is correct, right?
So they're putting the infrastructure in, not us.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Councillor Blanchard?
Yeah, thank you. Just a question to the staff there on our on the budget, I guess. The previous projects that it mentions here in the report, those came out of an envelope of money or a budget line that was allocated by council for housing development. I assume this would come out of the same envelope, I guess, in terms of development. How much is remaining? How much do we have remaining in that in that budget line?
Well, you didn't set aside any extra this year except for a second payment due on the Compass building project. But if you remember in budget time, we had a discussion about putting money into reserve funds in case something like this came across. And so there's sufficient funds for the first phase. Truthfully, it probably won't have to be paid up until 2025 anyway, that they get approval this March. They won't start building probably until summer, July, and it was 6 months after the start that I think we talked about. 50% completion, so that'll take a while. So if it is this year, it's $20,000 will be easy enough to find. If it's next year, we can budget for it accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any other questions? Just a quick one for staff, and again, maybe I have forgotten this point, but when they mentioned that they were looking for our investment to help lower the rents, have they given us an indication of what those rental rates are?
No, but that's because they haven't costed out the cost of the building yet. As we know, everything is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
All they've committed to is that they'll use it to drop rates on the apartments by $83 for 2 years is what the commitment is.
Okay, thank you. I guess we're just looking for a little bit of consensus from council as to whether we want to move this forward or not.
Yes, if council's okay with it, we're going to build it into our economic development agreement, which is part of the development agreement, blah, blah, blah. But there's a piece that has to go to PAC this week. Okay, March 6th, so we won't be able to bring it to council till the 18th will be when all of it's tied in together. There's a little, I won't say hiccup, but there was just, someone forgot to put in an application for a subdivision plan. So a variance on the parking. So that just happened in the last few days or last couple of weeks. And so it had to be prepared for the next meeting. So it'll be put off a little bit, but the developers are all aware of that, and they had hoped it would move faster, but the pieces take us what they do, I guess. And we've been meeting with them and trying to move them as fast as we can. But it's just been moving along a little slower due to changing plans and stuff as they've tried to figure some stuff out in the almighty concern of the parking and trying to meet their current zoning bylaw.
Councilor Blanchard, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I'm not 100% sure at this point where I stand on it, given that also, you know, as part of this meeting tonight, we have the again, another presentation or an information piece about the housing hub workshop, I guess, that took place there. So that potentially is another project that we as a municipality are going to be engaged in. And there will likely be additional dollars that we have to put forward. I know there's a lot of money out there available through different funding mechanisms, but I still foresee likely there will be a need for us to contribute additional funds. And then, of course, we have the wharf project, which is, you know, set to begin. and any potential cost overruns there as well that we're going to be on the hook for. So I'm just wondering about whether we need to start to focus our efforts with regards to, new builds that we're going to be, promoting or involved with, or providing assistance to. I know for a while there, we had set aside a significant amount of money to be really aggressive. I think we were fairly successful, relatively speaking. I think we've got shovels in the ground. We've got new units that are up and others that are close. So I think we've done a lot of what we set out to do, still a ways to go. But I guess I'm just I'm wondering if we need to be a little more targeted and a little more, like I said, a little more targeted, a little more cautious with regards to funding new projects, where we do have, again, another one in behind the community college potentially that might require some additional assistance. So that's sort of where I'm at. I'm not 100% sure whether we want to jump into other additional projects or not, where we've already invested a significant amount. So I don't know how the rest of council feels.
Thank you. Councillor Harlan?
Just to clarify, what we're looking for tonight is just consensus about whether or not to proceed with developing a development agreement. Is that correct? And it would still need to be, it would still have the opportunity for us as a council to debate it. Is that correct?
Correct, but it'd be nice to get consensus that you feel the request of $20,000 per building is sustainable to council. And I think to agree with Councillor Weir in this one, that it's insignificant, and I appreciate what Councillor Blanchard is saying. But one way to look at it is once the first building is built, the property taxes generated by that first from each additional build will pay for the next ones, if you know what I mean. So, if it was $200,000 they were looking for, it'd be a different, per building, it'd be a different conversation. But I feel that this is worthwhile to help. And again, I don't want to say it's going to be low income housing, but this day and age, every bit helps. And for some people, that $83 to $100 is the difference between eating and not. So, it's always good to have options. The NBCC one, again, is another great project, but it's probably minimum 2 years as we go through the processes of developing it before we even start construction. So we have time to plan ahead on that one as well.
Thank you. Councillor Weir?
Just as a follow-up to that, most of this money, or all this money, is going to go into infrastructure that will eventually be turned over to the town as soon as it becomes a town street and everything. So we're investing in our own infrastructure.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Again, at the moment, we don't have a formal motion, so we're basically just staff's looking for some direction as to whether we want to proceed without, well, there's understanding we don't want to make extra work for them, but if we're all in consensus, then we'll move forward with the development agreements.
Say yes.
Seen a lot of head nods. Everybody okay with that? And again, we'll have the opportunity to debate it at a later time, so. Okay, I think that's enough direction for staff. All right, thank you, council. We'll wait the return of our mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Neal and council. All right. So that moves us down to 156, tourism directional signs.
Councillor Weir, you'd be on this file.
Reference number EBC 240202, tourism directional signs. Staff has been working on the development of a new tourism directional sign. In 2023, staff consulted with the BIA, Chamber of Commerce, on the signage. Additionally, council budgeted $25,000 for the replacement of the existing signs in town. Please see the attached report from Terry Acton Asset Operations Manager for details on the signage. Staff are seeking final design approval from council before proceeding on the manufacturing of the signs. The goal is to have the signs installed for the spring 2024. Note that staff are still working on the design for the new entryway signage into Bayside and Shamcook as part of local government reform. And the motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the new tourism directional signs and direct sign staff to proceed with manufacturing and installation. I so move.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Neal, open up for discussion. I kind of note in the staff report here that there's questions still in the staff report. I was wondering if we're really looking to approve the design that you see in like the bottom of page 158, or we're actually approving the plan because it looks like it has questions, or if there'd be any value in another working group, sit down with staff and maybe invite a representative from the Chamber of Commerce and just sit down and go through it and just make sure that all the signage is aligned and consult with the business community. I'll give you an example on page 158. And by the way, I love the look of it. It's really sharp. It's well done. But on the suggested replacement on the bottom, it says downtown and Blockhouse both the same way, and then Qantas Campground straight. I get that, but I'm almost wondering if most visitors coming to town would be benefiting there of a left turn to go to the Algonquin, so they know which way it is. Versus, no disrespect to the Blockhouse, it's a heritage site, but I just question if the Blockhouse versus the Algonquin as you first come to town, if that makes sense, right? So, and again, it's improved signage. I like the look of it. There's questions throughout this report, so I guess I'm going over to staff to wonder if all these questions have been answered.
Okay, give me one sec. So, Your Worship, just so you know, on page 159, the main directional signage at that corner is that should be the is that the Park Street one? No, let's Reed. Yeah, Reed and Harriet. So that's the main one when they hit the intersection. The one on page 158 is before, as you're coming up, almost passing the arena. So, I mean, we could look at doing another Algonquin's like directional sign, but like most people, when they hit the main intersection, that's the big sign they see is the one you see on page 159.
I just wonder if kind of the lead up sign, if there's not more people as they come to town looking for the Algonquin in that example than the Blockhouse. That's just my point. Again, the Blockhouse is a wonderful heritage destination, but the Algonquin is the primary accommodation provider in our community. And we could dissect every which way do you go, left, right, which ones do you put? I'm just kind of want to, there's some questions throughout this, and I don't know if they've all been answered.
No, that's why we came back to council with it. But maybe, so we want direction, I guess, from council, but maybe, are you able to put up page 157 easily? So I guess one of the main questions, council, I don't know how you want to approach it, is on page 157, there's two different logos that are up there. So back in the day when these signs were built, and I don't know what year they originally built this, they've been here since I've been here, so 20 plus years. They used that top logo, which is the St. Andrews Historic District, founded with that color scheme. We don't have the artwork for that. We'd have to have it redesigned, maybe check with Civic Trust. They may have been the ones to do it, but we don't know. But we have been using the bottom logo from the organization standards for a long time, 15 to 20 years. So I didn't know if you had a preference over which one. And it goes back to what Explore St. Andrews had said too. We're using the shorter version of St. Andrews here. Well, of course, the local government's name is the long spelling, but I think probably the St. Andrews by the Sea for that type of thing is probably still the better option. So we need direction of what next steps if you want to make some decisions tonight. These things are going to take some time though. So if whatever you decide, we're going to get moving on it. So if you'd like some type of subcommittee or ad hoc committee with a couple of community members, we can bring them in, but would like to have those decided probably in the next couple of weeks so we can get them manufactured in time for the start of the season.
Yeah, I just like, again, if you look at it on page existing location 5, the Terra Manor Inn, I know that it's got new ownership, but right now, is that something that should or should not be on that sign right now? I know that there's my understanding, some staff accommodation there, but Horace, I don't know.
Well, that whole sign though is out of date. If you look, there's
that's what I mean.
yeah.
Like, I just to go ahead and approve it. I don't think we have before us the final plan, right?
Agreed, but we're hoping you'd help us build a final plan. So it's really direction. If you want us to go ahead, if you want us to fill a
Gotcha.
ad hoc committee of council or a couple of members of the community, we just need direction. If you don't want to go through it tonight with council, then we can get together with a couple of people and try to come up with a more solid plan.
Thanks. Got a couple of hands. Go Councillor Ware, then Councillor Bennett.
I guess my only comment, and I think of Halifax, and I lived there, so it's difficult for me to talk about it. But you know, you look for the Citadel, and you plan your traveling around the city based on that. And I think if you come to St. Andrews, look to the Algonquin, and then you plan the outlay of the town from road maps or Google or whatever you're looking at. And but I think that is the landmark that most people use when they drive into town. And I think we have to emphasize those landmarks if we want people to move around with the least amount of confusion. So,
thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I agree with everybody and what everybody's saying. I would like to say that this might be an opportunity for us to kind of treat these signs, the directional signs of the tourism related businesses, as like what the province does with the highway signs, and you can have it out there, but you pay for it, right? Like I like the signs with the street names and how they're designed and stuff, right? And certainly you know, we can point out which direction the blockhouse is, or the, you know, our historic downtown. But when it comes to whether it be the Huntsman or a hotel, then, you know, we can say, you know, for $1,000 we can put you at this intersection, and this is what your sign will look like, and pointing the direction up to your hotel or into your business. And you know, that way it helps cover the cost of things, and it also doesn't make it look like we're favoring one business over another if we give people the opportunity to have their business acknowledged.
Councillor Harlan.
As usual, I love the design. I think you did a great job. I love the look of the sign posts on page 158. My preference is the bottom logo, St. Andrews by the Sea. I think that's what we've kind of marketed ourselves as for a long time. I think I would agree with Councillor Ware and Mayor Henderson coming into town. I think the Algonquin is sort of our major landmark. I think it should be downtown, the Algonquin, Kiwanis. And then on that next sign, instead of it saying, instead of it saying the one on Harriet, instead of it saying the Algonquin, it say the Blockhouse, and you go down to the Blockhouse. I think those are really simple. Those would be my recommendations. I don't quite agree with the idea of promoting specific businesses, whether they pay for it or not. I would like to see us get away from that. I think, you know, identifying Thrift Lodge or Greenside Motel, if people pay for it, I understand they're paying for that advertisement, but it gives, I think, a false sense that those are our only motels or places of accommodation. I think there are other venues for those accommodations to be promoted, and I think our tourism center does a great job at that. I think it should be our major places of attractions and places within within our town. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilor Harlan. All right, council. So just on that, thank you everyone for. Oh,
I just wanted to respond to Councillor Bennett. I like your idea as an accountant. The more we charge, the more we get. But the problem we're going to run into is that if we start adding, we're either going to have a lot more signs all over the place, which we probably don't want in order to accommodate it. Or if we start making the post or the font so much smaller in order to accommodate more, they're going to be hard to read. So we've looked at that. So we're trying to minimize the number of signs so that the main attractions are standing up for bold. I guess the other thing too, like back in the day, especially in that one coming from Bayside into town, that was before the days of Google Maps and all that stuff. And so people needed directions, but now, you know, you can find the most obscure, if you know what you're looking for, you can find the most obscure hotel or Airbnb thanks to your phone. So there's less concern of that. So, and this is a case, I think less is more in my personal opinion. But again, however, we'd like to go with some type of committee to get this straightened out. So, you know, in the next few weeks, so we can get these ordered and placed.
all right. So for time frame, when next week, but if you had a meeting within 3 weeks, would that be too late?
No, why don't, I mean, I'm probably pushing it too hard. If we can have something to be presented by the second meeting in March, that we can get the order in early April, we should be sufficient. It might be a little bit of a time lag, but we've gone this long without them. I guess another few weeks is going to kill us, right?
I'd be willing to meet with a representative from Explore St. Andrews, the Chamber of Commerce, and have a little work session, maybe chart 2 hours and go through what the plan of staff is and just quickly check. And then we could put, this is the plan to council, and council could take a look at it. I don't know if anyone else has any interest, but I certainly, something I'm passionate about. But I think you are right, you'd like to do it as well. For this, okay, Councilor Neal will join as well. And I do think you are right. Less is probably more appropriate. You want the major things and go from there. All right. So council, I guess I got a mover and a seconder on this one. It sounds like it's not quite ready to be approved yet, but we'll set up a working meeting. Again, if anyone wants to join in, you can just email me, but I'll reach out to Explore St. Andrews and the chamber and get some input from the community as well from a tourism standpoint. So I guess would anyone like to table this one as well? Does that work as well? Or would you rather a table, Mr. No? All right, tables. Councilor Harlan moved to table. Is there a seconder to table? Councilor Neal, all in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye. That one's tabled. We'll come back in the second week of March is the hope. All right, let's jump back here. Thank you for that one, council. And the next one is the operation of the Visitor Information Center.
Reference number EBC 240203, operation of the Visitor Information Center for 2024. Due to staff capacity issues for both Explore St. Andrews and the Chamber of Commerce, there's a challenge in operating the Visitor Information Center the 2024 season. Town has been asked to consider operating it with a $28,000 contribution from Explore St. Andrews. Provided is a staff report and tentative budget for review. Town would be required to put $7,550 towards this initiative. Motion presented is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews enters into an agreement with Explore St. Andrews to operate the Visitor Information Center for the 2024 season with a contribution of $28,000 from Explore St. Andrews and $7,550 from the Town of St. Andrews. So moved.
Okay, a seconder for that one to get it on the table. Councillor Blanchard, discussion on this one. Councillor Ware.
I made the motion. I might as well be the first one too. I have concerns with it. It seems like every time something like this happens, it gets downloaded on the town. We supply the staff, we supply the scheduling and the bookkeeping, and and all those things. And I think with the amount of money that the levy is producing for Explore St. Andrews, staffing challenges doesn't seem real to me. I think the town has more staffing challenges than perhaps Explore St. Andrews. So, you know, I just feel as though everything comes our way. So start pushing back.
Sounds good, Councillor Ware. Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would agree with what Councillor Weir was saying. It does feel like these things tend to land in our lap. However, it would be my understanding that this would just be a 1-year sort of agreement at the moment. Like basically Explore St. Andrews is saying they can't do it this year, but potentially in the future, they'd be able to look after this.
They're simultaneously, as we're speaking, recruiting an executive director, and their prior employee had given his letter of resignation, so they're kind of an in-between spot too. So it's whatever council's will is, but I'd say yes, agree to this year only. It'll be in the same spot. If council agrees, then revisit it again in the fall during budget time.
Just to get clarity, I'll go to you, Councillor. Is the concern the money or the management or both? I guess to go back to Councillor Ware and Councillor Neal.
I guess for me, it's, I mean, if staff think they can make it work, to have the Visitor Information Center open and operating this summer for the cost of $7,500 seems pretty minor to me, considering the importance of it and the service that it provides to people visiting St. Andrews. I would like to see it stay as just a 1-year agreement, though, if we do decide to move forward with it.
Okay. Councillor Ware, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Harlan.
Yeah, I agree with that. Basically, just not so much the money, it's just the principle of the thing. You know, we give them, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, I do, but and yet they keep pushing things back on us. And as a council, I think we have a responsibility to the citizens and to the residents not to take too much on, because ultimately they're the ones that pay for it. So,
thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harlan.
So staff are saying that we would be able to manage it for the summer months. My question is, though, why are we also paying $7,500? Why is TALB not absorbing all of the cost?
You could handle that one. It might be a little less than that too.
It might be a little less, I think, because so I took the number off their budget that they'd presented to council in March, I think, or sorry, January, middle of January. Then I'd gotten in contact in between when this was released, and I think it's actually up to 30,000 they're willing to contribute. Why we're putting in anything, Explore St. Andrews' belief is that their job is to go outside of town and bring people here and not to meet the needs of the tourists once they get here. That theirs is outward marketing is the term they look. So attending trade shows, advertising, you know, various locations and various media and things like that, maintaining a website, etc., things like that. And they never considered the VIC as part of their mandate. But I guess from prior councils, I'll go that from prior councils' understanding that the funding for it was always to come out of the TALB, but it's unclear in kind of the documentation between the bylaws and stuff that have come up exactly where that falls. I don't think it's, the clerk who works closer on it than me, but I don't think it says specifically where the funding for the VIC is to come from or who's to operate it within the current bylaws as speak, and maybe time to revisit those at some point too.
I agree on the clarification on it, because I always was under the impression that Explore St. Andrews would be the one-stop shop for tourism in the town of St. Andrews. And if they're outbound and the chamber's mandate is in tourism and we have no staff member in charge of it, it's a gap in our community. So we need, if we have the powers to, whatever that looks like, be the ones to decide what that gap is, I think we should take a leadership position in figuring that out, right?
Mayor Henderson, Mr. Paul Logan from the president of the Chamber of Commerce is online and does say he can provide comment. It's up to you if you would like to allow him to speak.
Sure, I'll go to Councillor Harlan. Do you have it?
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that it is only for this year, and that what we're agreeing to is to absorb the operation of it this year with their contribution, financial contribution, and then we will resolve this issue going forward.
Okay.
Correct?
That would be our recommendation. It's all in the hands of council to decide how to move forward, but I think it'd be good to settle this once and for all. Yes.
Okay. It is getting tight too, from the sense that it's February and you still have to hire staff, right? So, okay. Do we need any further context, council? I appreciate Mr. Logan being on the line if you want him to come in, but it sounds like what I'm hearing is consensus for 1 year. Do you want to add him in? I know it's not really something that we normally do in council meetings, but we can if you wish. Do you feel like you need additional context, or you want to put him on? Okay, if you want to put him on, go ahead.
Mr. Logan, you have the floor to council. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, council. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. We presented on this last year, and again, it's Paul Logan, president of the Chamber of Commerce. And ultimately, in our discussions looking for funding last year for the Welcome Center, a comment was made that it was on an average $5 spend per visitor at the Welcome Center. Ultimately, your return on investment was pretty good. We got over 10,000 people through the facility. It's a major asset to not only tourism businesses, but other businesses in town, attractions, sending them out to Huntsman Ministers Island, people who have beyond popular belief have not booked their trips prior to coming and knowing what the area has to offer. And so that would actually look like $350 per the $5. So it's not a big ask. I think you'd be wise to look at a long-term agreement, as this would be something visitor information centers run by 99% of the municipalities in New Brunswick.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Logan. Okay, council. Any extra context from you? Otherwise, I'll call the question. Maybe the only thing is a friendly amendment to say up to 7,550, because if it's 30,000 from Explore, that means that number would actually be 5,550. Is that a friendly amendment, or should we formally amend that? Okay, friendly. Thank you for allowing a friendly amendment. Does that work for everybody, though? It seems to make sense to me. Okay. You want to stay longer, Mr. Spear? All right. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. And any opposed? And I'm just confirming, Councillor, I got Councillor Bennett opposed. Councillor Blanchard, were you for or opposed? It kind of stayed up there. It was delayed, I think, or frozen.
He was for.
He was for.
Four.
I think, yeah, okay. His hand froze up there. So I just confirmed.
Yeah.
The joys of technology. Okay, perfect. So that passed by a vote of 4-1. All right, next motion.
Point of order, Councillor Weir might want to flip on that microphone.
Oh, thank you. He was flawless tonight too, eh?
Reference number EBC 240204. Request for support, Chamber of Commerce Gala Dinner, April 11th, 2024. St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce is hosting a gala dinner on April 11th, 2024. This event is meant as a celebration to recognize the outstanding contributions of business and individuals within our community. They're hoping council will consider being a platinum sponsor to show your support for the initiative. The request for a sponsorship of $1,000. Staff would recommend it be charged against the civic promotions budget although it is limited to $5,000 this year. The motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews moves to support the St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce Gala Dinner taking place April 11th, 2024 as a platinum sponsor in the amount of $1,000. So moved.
Seconder for that motion. Councillor Neal, discussion on that one? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor of approving that motion, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. That has been carried. Thank you very much for going through those 4 motions. We are now moving on to Councillor Blanchard for Recreation and Environment Committee. Page 174.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just looking, is this in regards to the signage, the arena, Your Worship?
That's correct.
Is that just a report from, I don't know, is there a motion with that?
Sorry, my bad. It's a discussion. So,
no worries.
Council, I'll pass it over to Mr. Spear, but I think you're looking for discussion around option 1 and option 2. Is that safe to say? So, Council, I don't know if you've had a look fully at the entire package, but because it's a big one, but I assume you have. Option number 1 would be putting a screen on the existing sign that you see. It kind of blends in between the arena complex and the listing of what's there. And then option 2 would be kind of a new little garden. Those flowers would never survive the deer, but you know, we'd figure out some boxwood or something around it. But it would be to do a different screen on the lawn. So I think staff's looking for consensus if you still want to go ahead with this, and if so, if one of these options looks good, I don't mind kicking it off. I love the look of having it within the existing sign. That's where it always used to be with the old letters they put up. But that would be, for me, a little less of an LED sign than sitting out by the side of the road. But that's just my personal preference. Over to you. What members of council think, if you like option 1, option 2, or of course you have the right of saying neither. Councillor Harland.
So if we went with option 2, would the existing sign still stay?
Correct.
Yeah.
Any preferences? I might be feeling that you might like the other one.
I do. I
That's
prefer the
okay.
other one.
All right.
I recognize that it's more expensive. I I prefer the I think in terms of visibility, the lower one may be better. I recognize that it is more in keeping with our previous sign, if we had it in the existing sign, in the middle of the existing sign, but it also makes that sign very busy. And I like the idea of it being a standalone.
It's a valid point about busy. I guess to add more context, the only other thing that I added in is, and again, you don't put something based on vandalism, but the higher sign is less likely to get damaged in my mind. With someone punching it or kicking it is kind of why I thought, our kids body checking each other against it, being in front of the arena, the hockey ice. But that was just my other considerations added. But you are right, as far as you have all those signs plus a active sign, that is a busy sign. That's a valid point. So council, any other preference if we're just trying to get a little? Councillor Bennett, option 1 for you. Uh-oh, Councillor Harland. Uh-oh. This is when, yeah. Is it a mail? Motion to table until Deputy Mayor's back. Councillor Ware. Uh-oh.
Need a microphone there. I don't know what Councillor Ware was.
He was with the boys club, I guess.
Yeah,
Mark, which way are you going?
If I'm recognized, if I had to choose, I would probably go with option 1. Sorry to say, Councillor Harland, but I'm still not sure about overall about the digital sign within the town. I do recognize though that for emergency purposes and for information purposes, there is a need for it in the community. So if I had to choose, I would be option 1, I think.
So from my understanding on Councillor Blanchard's point is there's kind of 2 options that council would proceed, as we could go through PAC and ask for a variance due to the fact that it would also be used for emergency situations, or B, there's examples of where municipalities allow one for their community messaging versus a business messaging. Is that correct? You update the
We could
bylaw?
go back to, yeah, well, we were talking to our planner about this last week, and he said it may not be necessary to do anything with it because there's a certain allowance for messaging signs like this is. So if we refrained from private advertising on it, it's just solely for our own events and things. It should be okay, but I'll take council's direction on that. Previously, it was a bit of a hot topic within the town of St. Andrews, so I don't know if you want to do any type of motion at the next meeting where people can have a voice, or if you're just willing to move forward. And I think times have changed, and with the removal of that white sign, I think people have realized they need something here. They've really missed it, and especially with Mr. Henselpecker putting on so much stuff now, people will say, gee, I didn't know that was going on. So it's just good, you know, we put it out in lots of channels, but nothing beats having it right there on the side of the road as you're running back and forth out of town.
Yeah, and I know it was an anomaly year, but having the Red Cross have to activate twice in our arena, having that board giving additional information versus just putting up pages all over the front door, it would have been very beneficial at that time to keep people updated for sure. It would have been. I think we did a good job communicating as best we could with the resources. I think we probably took a leadership role in communication, but you can always improve, right? Council, so I guess you'll follow back up on the best method for that for council. It sounds like it would be nothing required at all as long as we're not advertising private business, right?
So if if the PA, or not the PAC, the Regional Service Commission says there doesn't need to be any more involvement from either the PAC or council, are you okay with staff proceeding with option one, or did you want another kick at the can and another meeting with it?
It's within the budget, right? That was passed. If it's within the budget, I actually don't see unless everyone seems by voting, everyone seems they're okay with it. Okay, I'm seeing head nod, so you can proceed without that as long as it's within budget. All right, thank you, council. We're now into planning and community development. So Councillor Harland, we'd be at the discussions. So this one's not a motion. Actually, neither of the ones we have left to do are motions. So the first one is the discussion on the request for a fence between the town parking lot, Mr. Karl Savoie, Miss Jeanie Langley's property. Pass over to you, Mr. Spear. I know that they it seems like the owner of called the Kennedy Inn and has made an agreement on how that fence will work, and everyone seems aligned to that.
Yeah,
And
right now the fence is going the length of the property line. So originally we thought it was just going to go at the end of the alleyway between the Kennedy Inn and the adjacent building on Water Street. But now Mr. Savoie and Mr. Belanger have come up with an agreement to post one the whole length. So now he's made a request that he also puts one between our parking lot and his parking lot in the rear of the buildings, both our building. And so there's two ways we could go at it. He's asked for the town to pay for it, or we could offer to pay partial of it, or we could just say we won't oppose you building it on the property line, send a letter to the Regional Service Commission that he can build it, but that council won't support it financially.
so just for clarity on that, Mr. Spear, so this fence, it's in the diagram that you provided. I believe it was in yellow. If I go ahead to it, just so council all has it on page 181. It'd be yellow. So what it is just giving more privacy between basically the town parking lot and I'll call it his parking lot. I believe your rent space is there. This would be in addition to what the PAC requested for this to go through. This would be just since he's building one fence, he's hoping to have the town pay for an addition to give additional privacy. Is that correct to say?
Correct. And he does have issues, your worship, with people leaving after hours, because we close our bathrooms at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. The cleaners come in, and that people will relieve themselves on his property, will hop the barricades that are there now and go behind a tree or in a dark unlit area, because we have cameras behind our parking lot, and do their business before continue on their way. So that was part of his request, was to help prevent that.
Okay, council, I know we talked about this previously. I think there was some concern from council, but let's get some consensus. I think the consensus last time was they're worried about precedents. If there's a lot of people that have alleys downtown, if you pay for a fence on one is what I heard, where does it stop on others? If someone's trespassing, there's legal grounds that you can take is kind of what I recall from that. But Council, over to you if you think the municipality should. There's really three parts. One that would be probably the most straightforward is it okay if he puts it on the property line? Council, I don't know if anyone has any concerns over that. I personally don't whatsoever. There's already barriers there. Anyone have any concerns over that? Okay, so now the second part of that is, should town be paying none of that, amount of that, whether it be half or all of it? Council, over to you for your consensus on how you feel that should be. I know we talked about it in the past. I see Councillor Neal reaching, so we'll go to him first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I don't have any issue with the proponent here erecting the fence on the property line. Like you said, there's already cement barricades there. I don't feel that the town should be paying for it. I don't think we should be paying any portion of it. It seems to me like this fence is purely aesthetics. I know he did mention security, and to Mr. Spear's point, if somebody is going to jump over a concrete barricade for a bit of privacy, I think they'd be a lot more apt to walk around this fence for a lot more privacy. Where it is open, I don't see it providing security. And I mean, honestly, to me, it's nothing more than an aesthetic look there that we would be adding at the town's expense.
Thank you very much, Councillor Neal. Maybe I'll look for consensus. Does everyone else feel that way as well? Or Councillor Ware, go ahead.
Oh, I concur entirely. Mr. Spear mentioned, someone ducks in there behind a tree. Now all they've got to do is duck in behind the great big fence. It's going to make the problem worse instead of better. So, no, it's not going to be any more privacy or anything like that.
Thank you, Councillor Ware. I see head nods. Maybe just a quick show of consensus if you think that the town should be paying nothing towards this, I guess. Quick show of hands. That's everybody. So property line sounds okay, Mr. Spear, but if they want additional privacy, it will be paid for by the property owner. All right, Council. The next one is the Housing Hub of New Brunswick summary for the visioning exercise at the end, that for the potential development behind the New Brunswick Community College. Basically, there was a session with stakeholders at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex, was very well attended. And the report that you have is a summary of what they found. It doesn't really necessarily say this is exactly what's going to happen. It's just the feedback that I had from that session. Mr. Spear, is there anything you wanted to highlight more? Just open up the questions from council, or how did you want to proceed on this one?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Your Worship, that this is a very high-level document, but it was that we were actually in our monthly meeting with them earlier today, and they said they're now able to hire an architect to review it and come up with a more conceptual drawing based on what the feedback was from the stakeholder group 2 Fridays ago. And so there'll be more to come, but this was just a high level engagement to be able to start the process, and really required by some of the funding partners to see that we've reached out to the community to look at what this should be.
Thanks. Any questions from any member of council? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciated the opportunity to sit in and work through that process of giving our opinions and listening to other opinions, especially from the wide, broad spectrum of people that attended that. And reading through the synopsis here, everything is pretty clear. That's the way we did discuss it. The one thing I would like to point out, though, and I did voice my concern at the event, was that they're earmarking the building as like for students, seniors, and seasonal workers, and not want to show support to seniors. But I think if you're looking at seasonal workers and students, throwing seniors into that mix, if that's the direction that we want to go in, I think we're probably going down a bad hole. It's I don't believe that students and seasonal workers and seniors is a good mix for one building, and I also think that the construction of a building for students and seasonal workers shouldn't be something that people want to live in for long periods of time, like what a senior might move into a building and live there for a long time. Well, this building I see is a building for short-termers, and if it's not short-term stays, then it doesn't add to help out for the school or our seasonal workers for the next season. because I think we very clearly would fill it with a more long-term resident. So I think for those reasons, seniors and any long-term tenants should be avoided for this building. Thank you.
Sounds good. Just on those comments. So, your point taken. If there's 2 seniors and 48 units of students, it will be problematic. I guess it all depends on ratio because there is positive studies on intergenerational living as well. I think that you're 100% right that there's a development opportunity for seniors, but this is directly behind the New Brunswick Community College. You'll probably never have a better location to really focus more on something that will actually benefit students and young workers in our community. So I think you're spot on that. I think the concern is I think a lot of the funding opportunities, though, you can't decipher one from the other. Is that correct? Did I hear that? Or is that just me hearing something?
That's not entirely wrong, but within the room too, I mean, Councillor Bennett brought up those concerns, and it's good concerns. But what the consultant had said, that it was really up to the building manager, which isn't planning on being the town staff, just so you know, to maintain control over there. I guess another thing is too, just to remember that the students that go to the MBCC are different than students that go, say, first year of university at a high school. A lot of them right across New Brunswick, not just St. Andrews, are mature students. And this is, people 2 or 3 years. A lot of them, the international students, 27 is the average age.
Yeah.
So they're like me at 27, I was in bed by 9:30 at night. Taking care of my kids. Well, I had kids at that point. The point well taken, and maybe that they'll have to place within the unit. So it's going to be fairly big building. They might be able to do it, and they're talking about like a common areas that'll be outside the building, so if they want to have a get together of 8 or 10 people, that it won't be in an apartment, but it'll be downstairs in a common room or something that will put it out of earshot of everybody, is the hope. But your point is taken, but there's still kind of that need in the community for seniors apartments too that people felt, and so we'll have to wait and see. And maybe seniors will not apply for it if they think it's the mix. That I think there's still a hope today that seniors like to be in with other seniors, similar to Anchor's Landing.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that one, as is Councillor Bennett. But good news is we're just down the beginning of this process. There'll be plenty of input for council. This one is just what they heard, right? So you're spot on, Councillor Bennett.
Just follow up, Your Worship. The biggest part when we're talking the mixed housing or intergenerational housing was it was specific not to focus specifically on student housing or like dormitory style housing, as that would not necessarily meet the funding model. So looking at a 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments that are suitable for young workers, students, or other meets the criteria. So I just want to provide clarification.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was any legal way. One of the things I wanted to bring up at that session is there a way, and I don't even know if it's something I want, but a way to say you can stay in these rental units up to 3 years or 4 years. So that way they're consistently turning over to give people an opportunity to get established in the community, right? Versus what I saw from another development that is happening in the community, the Facebook posts alone underneath it is going to fill that building very, very quickly. And it's people that will be staying there, and they'll be there year round. And then when you have that September uptake of students, it'll be completely booked out, and this project could completely miss one of the main intentions because of that to that point. I think we need to figure that out, right? So more to come on that, but we're really early in this process for sure. All right. Thank you. Unless there's anything else, that is all of the discussion for today. Thank you, Council. We do have a closed session, but first we will open up to question period. The audience looks like they're good this evening. Is there anyone online that would like to ask any questions? We gave him his time, right, Mr. Logan? Yeah.
We've given Mr. Logan his time, and we've received nothing through direct email either.
Perfect. All right, Council. So we'll skip question period. Councilors' comments. Councilor Harland.
2 comments. I'd like to thank staff for their leadership and vision around the signage, both the direction signage as well as the signage around the digital, the potential digital sign. Even though I may not have succeeded in persuading anyone with another option, I believe that some town staff may support me in my disbelief of the second option. The other is that I just wanted to remind people that on this Sunday is the community mental wellness conversation. We've had lots of interest, and which is wonderful. We're very pleased with that. But if you haven't signed up, please sign up at the town office, either by calling the town office or by emailing town@townofstandrews.ca. We're looking forward to the conversation that ensues. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other member council? All right, I'm good as well this evening. So I will be looking at time. Are we at here? 8:10 p.m. Council move into closed session per Local Governance Act, Section 68(1)(f), which is information concerning legal opinions or advice provided to the local government by its solicitor or privileged communications between solicitor and client in a matter of local government business. So could I please have a mover? I think I saw Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Neal. Just beat Councillor Blanchard. Maybe there's an online delay there, Councillor Blanchard. Maybe you beat him, but I gave it to Councillor Neal. All in favor of going to closed session, please signify by saying aye. We're going to close session. Thanks for anyone that was watching online this evening. So at 8:53 p.m., I'll be looking for a motion to come out of closed session. By Councillor Harlan, seconded by Councillor Ware. All in favor of coming out of closed session? It's everybody. I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Neal. Deputy Mayor, actually, no. Councillor Bennett. All in favor of adjourning?
I was acting as of tonight.
That's everybody. We're now adjourned. Thank you, Council.